I want to talk about this video of Lerato when she went to the Chris Network and she said that eating 3 times a day, it's a sin.
Like gluttony, eating too much, it's a sin. And it's not a sin, like I was just like, God, me and food, we friends, right?
So, my sister,
It's not
to be full is a sin.
to eat too much, it's a sin.
What do you mean eat too much?
To eat too much, like 3 times a day, 4 times a day, it's a sin. We're not supposed to be eating like that. Human beings, we are not supposed to eat 3 times a day. I don't know where that is coming from, but it's not biblical. It's not in the Bible. Serious. This thing of you have to have breakfast. There's even brunch in the middle. There's lunch, supper, dinner, haibo.
I think you must
and it
all
these things. And that is why ShopRite and Pick and Pay. Yes, you were saying.
Appetite is stable. Your style is stolen. So it makes sense. You shouldn't be eating more than
3 times a day.
No,
even 3 times a day is a lot. One should be eating just maybe once. Even just as a child of God, compared to how just regarding the fact that the world that we're living in now is so dirty spiritually, right? One should be eating once a week. I'm telling you, but it's hard because from when you were young, you were taught to eat 3 times a day. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And it's a lie from a pit of hell. It's lies.
Eating 3 times a day, it's a sin. And then she goes on to say that Yana, she used to eat 6 times a day. So I think there's a problem here because you ate 6 times a day and now eating is a sin to a point where it can send someone to hell. Something is wrong. But apart from that, is eating 3 times a day unbiblical? She says it's not in the Bible. No problem. That one we will tackle later when I have a laptop and I can show you an entire study. The children of Israel thinking manna, when the manna subject comes up, they were given manna. Moses said, eat it today. So after they got thingy, the Bible, you see, verse 24 says, so they put it aside until the morning. So there were food, they took some manna and some thought to save it so that tomorrow they can eat in the morning. So it's very clear they ate in the morning. And it did stink. They were not allowed to do that. They were supposed to trust God to provide. That's what the whole story of manna was. Now tell me, if God was providing food for them in the morning, for them to have food for the whole day so that they show they trust Him, does that sound like God was against us eating in the morning? Today you will not find it in the area. So basically they were supposed to collect it for a certain number of days, and then on the 6th they will be given twice. The verse goes on to kind of state that in verse number 29, because the Lord has given you the Sabbath, that is why He is giving you food for 2 days. So they were supposed to get the food for the 6th day and the 7th day on the 6th day. It's very clear here that they were eating every day. So where does Lerato get this one? But anyways, we'll do a full study on this later on. Let's move on. And then the Bible then says, man cannot live on bread alone. In Matthew chapter number 4, you will see here, if you are the Son of Man, command the stones to become bread. This is the temptation of the devil when he was tempting Jesus to eat after the fast. Then he says, but he answered, it is written, man does not live. So notice here, he implies that bread allows us to live. Bread allows us to live. This is what it implies. Man does not live by bread alone. So bread alone. but by every word that comes out from the mouth of God. So let's focus on that portion there. Man does not live on bread alone. That idea implies that man lives on bread. So this idea of eating once a week, where does Lerato get that? Where do you see that? If it is something you live by, the same way we live by work. We work, we build relationships, we go out, we take a shower. These are things by which we live by. That allows us to be effective people on a daily basis. These are things we live by. If you just lived without showering, it will be a problem. Okay? The Bible even brings up the subject matter. If a person looked at himself in the mirror and forgot what he looks like, it brings up that particular subject. Yes, of course, he's talking about it from a spiritual viewpoint. But if you think about the idea of having a mirror to look at, and the Bible even mentions it, it's telling you that we look at ourselves to see that we look proper when we go out. We make sure that we look proper when we go out. Can't just wake up and be anyhow and say, me, they will receive me, spiritual, me, I'm spiritual. No. So, man does not live on bread alone. It's kind of bringing up the subject matter of the man lives on bread. This is what we need for the body. Now, eating once a week, where do you get that? That's why there is such a thing as diet cults. If you go on YouTube, you will find there's a documentary on a diet cult that emphasized eating a certain. This is cult ideas. What Lerato is teaching, it's a cult idea. It's a dangerous teaching. We need food. We need food. You want to be down because you ate 6 times a day. That's your problem. Now you want to restrict people to stop it. Meaning, man lives by bread. I don't think she thought about that one very well. This is what happens when you sit to think the Bible. This is what happens. You're going to start thinking funny things. We ought to think in line with what the Bible says. We must take what the Bible says, and that becomes doctrine for us. You don't sit and think what should be. If you can hear thinking, it just started raining. It's Joburg. Even in the Zimbabwe, it was doing the same thing. It's Joburg. You can come in, it's sunny, and then before you know it, it's all over. It's raining. And so, first things first, man cannot live by bread alone. It implies that man lives by bread. The verse itself implies man lives by bread. I wouldn't say how many times a person should eat. I would say let a person eat when they are hungry. Instead of doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eat when you are hungry. What even advice is that? Okay, this is 6 times a day. When do you even get time to eat 6 times a day? 12 right now, it's almost 11 o'clock right now, and I have not eaten anything in the morning. I only eat when I'm hungry. And that might mean that I might eat lunch and maybe something in dinner, or sometimes I might eat lunch and take coffee in the evening and a small anyana something. Be very careful when you think you are so biblical that you can think what doctrine should be. Be very careful. You step into a danger zone, which is where all Lerato and the people in the holiness movement are at. They think they can think something biblical. Now, she mentions the subject matter of breakfast is the most important meal of the day. If you do your research about breakfast, the standard breakfast, you'll find out that in research that that particular slogan was made famous, I think around the 60s, the 70s. And that's when is it the milk company? I can't remember exactly. The dairy companies were trying to promote milk, pork. I can't remember what it is. You can go back and research that one. I'm not going to do that one for you. You can go and search and look it up. And if you look at things that came up in this period, that's where all these things of eating pork, eggs, and all those things became very popular. Now, those, we now call them English breakfast. We've gotten used to that. It's kind of a certain luxury or whatever you call it. Okay, like I said, I'll show you Bible verses which show the people ate in the morning and they would eat in the afternoon and they would eat in the evenings. The problem is when you start making all these funny regulations, it's self-righteous. That's what self-righteousness looks like. If you're waiting to hear something that says, hey guys, I'm self-righteous, you're waiting for a problem. Listen to what they teach. It's self-implied. It implies self. She eats 6 times a day. Now she wants to, sugar. Sugar get. Haibo.